Welcome back to the program, live from Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. for the Feet to the Fire event, which is put on by the Federation for American Immigration Reform. And sitting in front of me is a man who's really on the front lines because your district runs right up to the fence line that runs into the water in San Diego, actually south of there. Congressman Brian Bilbray. How are you doing, Congressman?
Pretty well. My county actually runs and covers that down the line. I grew up down south. I live farther north now, but yeah, it's something that those of us in San Diego County have lived with our entire lives.
And in fact, you said that at one point in your life, as a lifeguard, you'd see people drowning in the ocean trying to get into
I'm probably the only member of Congress that have rescued illegals when they're drowning, recovered their bodies when they didn't make it, and I've seen them slaughtered on the highways when you do what they call the bonsai charges, where they literally were swarming across the freeway, and obviously many of them didn't make it.
And in fact, as the president calls for a path to citizenship and to reward people who've broken our laws for years, you're in the position of saying this is not humanitarian to say we should do this for these people.
This is as ridiculous as opening up a candy store in the middle of a freeway and then thinking you're not going to be responsible for the children who get killed trying to get to that candy store. You have just announced to the world that if they break our laws, if they come across the deserts and try to swim the rivers and try to run the freeways, that somehow you're going to reward them with a panacea at the end of it. In fact, more people die every year coming into this country illegally than were killed in the Oklahoma explosion every year. But where is the left-wing outrage about the fact that our lack of enforcement has created a situation that has killed more people than the Oklahoma explosion every year? And that's a kind of, this selective realism, this amnesia that these guys have with this issue of not being on the front line and seeing the cost and not seeing what happens to somebody from the interior of Mexico who's never seen a freeway when they're hit at 60 miles an hour. And that's a part that they don't want to talk about. They love the cuddly, warm, you want to embrace them, but it's an attractive nuisance. And you announce to the world that you're going to reward illegal immigration, you'll never be able to control the border or our neighborhoods. And I think that's one of the things they keep wanting to say. So when someone says, well, what are you going to do with the 20 million people that are here illegally? I said, first of all, what are you going to do with the 20 to 60 million that come because you've just rewarded a group? First thing you do is you make it illegal to give them benefits, which Joe Wilson, I think, made his point. I think the president heard it and Congress has heard it. I don't think you're going to see a public benefit in Congress get through without verification that people are legally present.
That it'll not just be a rule against it, but a rule with verification?
It will be a rule and verification. I don't see it. The Senate jumped on this thing so fast, and you get it. They realize what went on. You're going to see that this month, the president had to give in after delaying for over 6 months the issue of E-Verify for every federal the contractor, because every federal employee now is doing it. And now we've got every contractor and subcontractor now has to E-Verify. And we're moving towards this issue that if you come here illegally, you won't be able to get a benefit and you won't be able to get a job. Why would you come?
And why not?
Why would you stay?
Why not self-deport?
In fact, a lot of people say, well, what are you going to do with us? I said, what do you do with old congressmen when they get voted out of office in Washington? You think that when you stop paying us to be here, we're going to stick around?
Well, in fact, haven't we seen a fair amount of self-deportation during the economic downturn?
Major issue on that. In fact, there's a whole lot of this of taking basically, in fact, you've actually seen vehicles, cars shipped down south and them getting in business with what they've earned down here, down there, and that's fine. On the flip side, there are things we can do once we have stopped illegal employment. We can do a true guest worker program where people come here, work, go home. They maintain their families in their home country. They maintain their family connections, their community connection, but they also don't dump onto the public process all of these burdens that have broken the back of California. If you don't think that immigration is a big issue, come visit California and take a look at our budget issue. We went from some of the top schools in the country to the bottom of the pile right now. You talk about one of the most prosperous states with had an economy as big as Great Britain now in the tank. And a lot of this is contributed by the whole concept that you continue to reward people to break the rules, some of them illegally in the country. Others are breaking the rule. There's a lot of other issues we can talk about. But this one is one of those things that we got to be clear
about.
Well,
and in fact, in California's case, $24 billion in the hole in the state budget. And yet, if you, by some math, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, by some math, if the illegals self-deported and took that burden away, that the state of California could correct that deficit fairly quickly.
Well, let me give you one county, my county, San Diego. $600 more than 617 to $619 million of health care to illegal aliens alone. $600 million in one county. Now, you think about and add that up and what that could do and see. So what could you do in Oregon with $600 million to help provide health care to the people that are legally there, but over there they get the other way. So
I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but the Wall Street Journal the other day had a story about additional, I think they're H-1B or H-2B visas to bring teachers in, that American schools are actually out shopping for teachers from foreign countries and bringing them in. And I look at that and I think, hold on, you're telling me there aren't American teachers that are out of work right now as we speak? That's the part that gets, as we get from the first issue of should we tolerate illegal aliens to should America be shipping in workers to do jobs that are good jobs for Americans?
We shouldn't be shipping in workers for teachers or for nurses, but we've been doing it. We import a lot of nurses. That's why, serving on the Veterans Committee, I've really pushed that we totally finance any veteran coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. We will pay for them to be teachers and to be nurses. If we gotta change our immigration policy, these issues of education and employment, they're not really federal issues until it affects our immigration issue, which is totally a federal responsibility. And when that starts getting affected, we not only have a right, we have a responsibility to get involved. So I've got a program now we're pushing that when somebody comes back as a medic who's got hands-on experience and make them the best nurses in the world you couldn't buy, that they immediately come back to my state. They get an LVN credential. We will give them the grant to become an RN because we desperately need them, first of all, to fill a gap, and second of all, to be the best nurses you could ever get. And we ought to be doing the same thing for the teachers. Now, I'm not so sure the left wing's going to be comfortable with the fact that people with real experience that have really seen the world, because remember, when you and I, Lars, went to school, we had people from Korea that had actually, in World War II, and they got their GI Bill, they had real-life experience. You remember our coaches, our history teachers, our political science teachers were not a bunch of left-wing wackos who had gone from college right back into high school.
That's right.
They were people out and had fought communism. They understood what freedom was about. We need to bring those veterans back and fill those gaps so we don't have to import these people from overseas. We've got the products here, and our veterans are who we ought to be tapping to help fill these needs.
Congressman Bilbray, keep fighting it. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. Congressman Brian Bilbray with us. Back in just a moment, live on Capitol Hill. You've got the Lars Larson Show.